All right, welcome back, everyone. Dave here again on the Radical Independent. We've got a very special guest today who's been on the show a couple of times, and people have really enjoyed his insights, and he has a lot to say and some great experience. Of course, he's a former United Nations weapons inspector. He's also a former Marine intelligence officer, so he's had real jobs. I have not, so I kind of default to him for his expertise. Also, he's got a brand new book out called Disarmament in the Time of Perestroika, Arms Control in the End or at the End of the Soviet Union. Please welcome Scott Ritter back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Scott, some interesting things have happened since the last time you've been on. Moscow is accusing Kiev of this assassination, which involved the daughter of somebody who apparently a lot of people in Ukraine weren't too fond of. And the way the West is characterizing this is that, hey, this is what happens when things get a little out of hand and Russia continues to do their special military operation. This gentleman, I don't know that much about him. It says that he's a nationalist, he's a philosopher. He was someone who the West is saying was Putin's brain. This is a thing I've been hearing over and over again, that this was Putin's brain, and Kiev, conducted this operation, and they were trying to take him out and wound up taking his daughter out, who was a journalist. And the West has really been rather quiet about, assassinations. And I'm just wondering, Scott, I mean, treaties, what's been negotiated in the past and what the real rules-based order is, not the ones that the West continues to champion as the rules-based order. I actually don't know what their rules-based order even means or is, but they talk about it a lot. And this, to me, seems like it might be a bit of a violation of a few rules. And I was wondering what your take was on all of this and if you had any special insights.
Well, let's just start off calling, it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it's a duck. Right. Okay, this is murder. This is targeted assassination. It's terrorism. Whatever word you want to put on with a negative connotation, this is it. Okay. This is not justified. This is not legitimate. This can't be explained away. Shame on the West for trying to do so. If you're somebody who shed a tear for 9/11 and you're not shedding a tear for this, you're a hypocrite, plain and simple. If you're somebody who has condemned the tactics of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and you don't condemn this, shame on you. Shame on the West. I can't say shame on Ukraine. I mean, do you say shame on Al-Qaeda for carrying out its crimes? No, that's what they do. This exposes the reality of the horrific nature of the Kiev regime. It is a terrorist regime. It is a murderous regime. It is a regime that will take a mother, yes, she's a serving intelligence officer in the Ukrainian intelligence services, but take a mother and use her 12-year-old daughter as operational cover so that she can go to Moscow, use her daughter as part of the operation to assassinate an intellectual, not a general, not a civil servant, not somebody who had anything whatsoever to do with the decision-making process that sent Russian troops into Ukraine, but a philosopher. You don't have to agree with the man, but you don't get to kill him because you don't agree with the man. Right. Alexander Dugin is very well known in the circles of people who study Russia. The concept of him being Putin's brain is a joke and a heart. I mean, to say this, the reason why something like this is put out is because in the West, there is an effort to transform Russia into a cartoon. Boris and Natasha, Bullwinkle, come on, baby. All Russians speak with heavy, thick accents, and I will knock you out. the stupidity of this, the notion that a man as sophisticated as Vladimir Putin, um, who has his own history, needs an Alexander Dugin to teach him about Russian nationalism is absurd. Does that mean that Putin hasn't read Dugin? I'm sure Putin has. Does that mean that Putin hasn't met with him? Can't confirm it, but I wouldn't be surprised. Barack Obama, when he was president, met with everybody.
Yeah.
Met with with a poet laureate. Does that mean Barack Obama is now forever beholden to the poet? Does the poet whisper in his ear before he's to bed? Before he's allowed to make love to his wife, does he have to gain the consultation of this poet? No. No one would say that here in the United States about Barack Obama, but oh my goodness, because Russia is a cartoon. Therefore, this is Putin's brain. But the danger with cartoons is that when you turn from animation to reality, it gets dangerous at times, especially when you have a Ukrainian government that has outlawed dissent, that has outlawed thought that's different from their own odious ideology. And I want to emphasize this. There is no love lost between me and the Ukrainian government. I'm wearing my heart on the sleeve here. They are a neo-Nazi supporting group of thugs. Zelensky is not some honorable democratic leader who is carrying out a Winston Churchill type resistance. He's a pathetic, failed comedian, not a failed comedian, actually pretty good at comedian. Just show he made me laugh. Okay, so kudos to you, Zelensky. But he's a failed politician. Okay, the man is a failed politician who is being used. He's everybody's puppet. There's more hands up his little puppet controlling hole than you can imagine. More strings attached to his arms to make him dance to whatever tune. He's not in charge. He has empowered a group of murderous thugs whose ideological allegiance is to Stepan Bandera, a man who should be lined up against a wall and shot when he was a young child. They should have murdered or killed him when he was arrested the first time, the Poles. They made a mistake. He was an assassin, a murderer, a thug, death penalty. But no, they released him, allowed him to organize hit squads, roving bands of murderous thugs who gunned down Jews, who later on surrounded Polish villages, Russian villages, pulled people out of their homes by the thousands, butchered them, raped them, tortured them, murdered them. There's a statue in Poland of children tied to a pole with barbed wire, hanging there dead. It's a statue taken from a photograph of the crimes committed by Bandera. Yet we allow the Kiev regime, who endorses this thug, to exist. We empower them. We imbue them with nobility. And what do? They dispatch a mother and her 12-year-old child to go murder an intellectual. Again, you don't have to agree with Alexander Dugin. I don't. But you know what? I'm not a Russian, so it doesn't matter. If someone came to me and said, if a Russian came to me and said, Scott, I've read Thomas Jefferson's writings and I don't agree with it, I'd say, that's your opinion. Congratulations. I don't care. You're not American. It don't matter. And so if I sit here and say, well, I've read Dugin and I believe he's the average Russian can say, well, A, we appreciate that you read Dugin. B, we don't care. You're not Russian. This is about Russians deciding who we are. You Americans get to wrestle with who you are. Canadians get to wrestle who they are. It's sort of the privilege, the right of a sovereign people to decide for themselves what they want to believe, what their core values are, etc. Dugin is part of an intellectual process taking place in Russia to define what the Russian soul is. It's not a crime. It doesn't deserve the death penalty. But because this horrific, odious Bandera regime, which cannot tolerate dissent, which views itself as the representation of this new Aryan race, Ukrainian nationalism means racial supremacy. That's what it means. Understand that. Poles are subhumans. Russians are subhumans. Jews are subhumans. And we support these people. And they went and they committed murder. Why? Because he thought differently. But it's not just an isolated act. Keep in mind, and I don't know if we talked about this before, but the blacklist.
Yeah.
The blacklist. I'm on the blacklist. 76 other people are on the blacklist. This blacklist was published on July 14th by the Center for Countering Disinformation. Mm-hmm. Sounds nice. Yeah. But what they did is they blacklisted people for the crime of being Russian propagandists. But what does a Russian propagandist entail? In my case, it entailed telling the truth about the presence of NATO bases, permanent NATO bases on the soil of Ukraine. That's Russian propaganda, apparently. Yeah. Telling the truth about the Bucha massacre, that you have Ukrainian security services bragging about carrying out a cleansing operation that targeted any Ukrainian citizen who received humanitarian goods. Apparently, to receive a food packet from the Russian forces is a death penalty-inducing crime. And that's what they did. They gunned them down. I pointed this fact out. Oh, that makes me a Russian propagandist. Then I said that this is a proxy war between NATO and Ukraine, that NATO is using Ukraine as a proxy to fight Russia. Wow, that's sort of a direct quote from none other than the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. That makes me a Russian propagandist. But it's not just being a Russian propagandist. At the roundtable meeting where they promulgated this list, they said these are information terrorists who deserve to be arrested and prosecuted as war criminals. Now, what's amazing about this meeting is that the people that put together, their salaries are paid for by the U.S. taxpayer. Yeah. The U.S. taxpayers underwriting the salaries of the people putting together a blacklist that includes American citizens whose sole crime is to exercise their First Amendment right of freedom of speech. Now, what's even more important here is that the money that's used to pay these salaries comes from the U.S. taxpayers themselves. Put forward in a $40 billion packet approved by Congress, Public Law 117-128, May 21st of this year, sent that money, paid the salaries so they could publish a blacklist and promulgate this blacklist in a meeting on July 14th, organized by a U.S. Congress-supported non-governmental organization, attended by State Department officials who gave this blacklist their green light, their stamp of approval. A blacklist that not only says you're a Russia propaganda, that alone is a chilling impact. Anybody who is in America nowadays or anywhere in the world understands that given the level of Russophobia that exists, that if you're labeled a Russian propagandist, it has a chilling impact on your ability to be employed. I'm a writer. Mm-hmm. People I used to write for who loved what I wrote, the articles I wrote were the #1 clickbait that they had on their sites. #1. Yeah. Released me because I'm a Russian propagandist. Okay, screw them. I don't care about them. That doesn't bother me. Information terrorist, now we got a problem. You see, terrorism. I'm a terrorist. That means what? You put a target on my back. Anybody who now wants to be a hero in the name of freedom, democracy, free speech gets to gun me down like they gunned Dugan down, and anybody else on that list is fair game. Screw you, Chuck Schumer, who approved this. Same thing with Gillibrand. Same thing with Paul Tonka. Those are my 3 congressional representatives. Thanks for putting the death penalty up, death sentence on me. Because you know there are nut jobs out there who are empowered by this kind of stuff, who believe that killing Dugan was a good thing. A good thing. Now, they didn't get him. They got his daughter. But they don't care. They were going to kill her anyways. He was supposed to be the driver. She was supposed to be the passenger. They were going to kill both of them. They only got the daughter. They didn't get him. It's murder nonetheless. It's terrorism, and it's state-funded terrorism. And you know who's paying the salaries of the woman who carried out that crime? The U.S. taxpayer. Yeah. What are we doing about it, America? Not a damn thing. We're a pathetic excuse for a people. We don't stand for anything. Nothing. We let this occur, and the media is like, oh, well, it is what it is. No, it isn't what it is. It isn't what it is at all. This is one of those come to Jesus moments where people should reflect on what the hell is going on in their name. This isn't Ukraine committing a crime against Russia. This is the United States funding, facilitating, and encouraging crime carried out by Banderist murderers in Russia who ended up killing an innocent girl. You know, oh, she's not innocent, Scott. She was a journalist with pro-Russia. Oh, my God. So now we're back to if you dare say anything that's pro-Russian, if you dare take a position that's contrary to Kiev, then guess what it's come down to now? That Zelensky and his Banderist cronies get to sit there and hold court over the world. He spoke out against us. Kill. Death penalty. You dared say something that the Russians believe in. Oh, no, my God, you're not saying that you should bankrupt yourselves and give us $10 billion. You must die, because that's what they do. They murder people. These pigs surrounded villages, pulled women out of their homes, raped them in front of their husbands and sons, murdered everybody, including the children, tied to a pole with barbed wire, and we're supporting them. That's where I stand on this Dugan thing.
Wow. All right. Well, that's what, Scott, this is why we have you on, because the passion that you show for this and the insight that you have, it's, I'm sitting here watching you talk, and I'm just mesmerized by the things that you're saying. And nobody else is really saying this anywhere. You've got a few lone wolf voices out there, and they're probably on the same list that you're on, which is unfortunate. I haven't seen my name there yet, so
keep working on it. Keep working on it. Yeah, you'll get there.
keep working on it, and then I'm gonna have to check to see if there are any explosive devices that are attached to my car when I go out in the morning. This though, doesn't this violate some kind of international rule? Like I said at the beginning, isn't there a treaty? Isn't there some kind of agreement that you can't just go around and trying to? I know this. They didn't take Putin out, right? But this is kind of like a shot across the bow to say, look, if you believe in Russian nationalism, we're gonna make your life difficult. We're gonna, we're agreeing, as you said, with state-sponsored terrorism. And it seems that our government here in the United States has kind of lost its mind in a lot of areas. I mean, whether you like Donald Trump or not, and you have this raid on Mar-a-Lago, which seemed nothing more than a political witch hunt. And, the archives and the national, it's got to go to this. It should have been here, these sealed boxes. And, and that really kind of, I think, woke some people up about maybe the FBI and as someone said to me, Dave, this has been going on for quite a long time. It happened to a former president. So now people are kind of, starting to think about it. It's been happening to, regular citizens for decades. And I think we're putting your hand up in the air because you're one of those people. Scott, what can you do? I mean, I know your conclusion a lot when you go on these rants is we're a horrible country, we suck, which I agree with, and it's going to take an effort by individuals to say, what, I'm not even sure 100% what's going on. This is what I hear a lot these days, but something's wrong. Our country isn't a constitutional republic anymore. We are run internally, domestically, like a banana republic, and our foreign policy is all empire building. We're gonna remake other countries in our own image. We're gonna install. I remember John McCain. Remember back in this whole thing started with McCain and Lindsey Graham and all these neocons who were running around saying, "Oh yeah, this is going to be so much better. You guys are going to have freedom and democracy." And then the shelling started. On the other side of the country, the Donbass region. And this is why Moscow said, what, I think we need a special military operation to end this. These are ethnic Russians, and we would like Ukraine to still be Ukraine, but we want them to stop doing this. And then the entire world reacts and says, what are you guys doing? I mean, don't you just love NATO? Don't you love the fact that we're encroaching? I mean, you're surrounding the country. And again, we use that example where is if, China put a military base in Mexico or whatever, and it was like, 50 miles or something from the border, people in this country would blow a gasket and they would lose their collective minds. And then there'd be World War III. There would be full blown, you can't do this. I mean, look at the stuff that happened with Taiwan and Pelosi, and everybody's freaking out, and we're basically poking everybody. And we've gone beyond that because we're now sending our money. And by the way, I think we just approved another $775 million for weapons. Did we not? And what is this, Democrats and Republicans? Nobody has any restraint. Like 2 senators, 1 senator, like what is it, Rand Paul, and everybody else is like, yeah, it's a good idea. It's like when Pelosi went over, everybody, you would think there'd be even some tribal opposition to Pelosi because she's such just an incompetent old fool, right? And she's going over there. I'm hearing people, I don't know, like Ted Cruz or whoever saying, yeah, well, we can't allow this to happen. We've got to show strength, and we've got to show this policy that we're, friendly with Taiwan. And most people, Scott, they glaze over. They're just like, I don't know, I'm just trying to buy groceries, right? And they don't understand that your groceries are going up because we are printing money for these foreign interventions. We don't care about individuals here in this country. We really don't. And I'm not even sure, what our end game here. What is our end game? Are we just going to take over the world and become, because we're going to lose. I mean, Russia isn't going to quit. China isn't going to quit. So what is this end game, and how is this going to boomerang back on the United States?
Well, when you speak of an end game, if your goal is to sail across the ocean, your end game is to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Now, if you're on that boat and you hit an iceberg and you're sinking, your end game has changed. There's no rhyme or reason. You're desperately trying to bail water, plug the hole, do whatever you can. And so, if I were looking at a captain of a ship that's sailing across, I could make sense. You're navigating. You're avoiding the squalls. You're feeding your crew. You're making sure everything's nice and good.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Now I watch a captain of a sinking ship. There ain't nothing he's doing that makes sense, because he's going from one emergency to the next emergency, the next emergency. They aren't linked. New things are happening. He forgets the old things. It's just chaos. That's America right now.
Yeah.
We're a ship in the middle of the ocean that has hit an iceberg called reality, and we're going down, and our government is floundering. Let's just start with first principles. We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, we, the frickin' people. The second you lose sight of that, you lose sight of America. America doesn't exist without the people, because America is the people.
Right.
We selected a government that only exists with the consent of us to govern. That's the way it has always worked before. It's not working that way today. Abraham Lincoln, government of the people, by the people, for the people. There ain't no government of the people anymore. Citizens United proved this. That was the 2010 Supreme Court ruling that basically powered corporations to be people and throw all the money in. How can you have a legislative branch being the people's house? They keep talking about that, the people's house, when the people have no say in who is in the house.
Right.
It's all about money. Try and run for Congress today. Anybody, I challenge you. Go out there and see if you can take on big money, because you can't.
Yeah.
You can't even get close. Diane Sayers running for Senate in the state of New York. She's the LaRouche candidate. Well, whatever you think about LaRouche, that's your business. I don't care. My point is, she's running. She doesn't stand a snowball's chance in hell. Not because her ideas aren't better than Schumer's. She destroys Schumer across the board. I don't agree with everything, but she's better than Schumer. But if this was a battle of ideas, she'd win.
Yeah.
But it's not a battle of ideas. It's a battle of money and power. And what's happening now is Chuck Schumer can draw upon an infinite amount of money that can be brought in by corporations acting as people. Same thing with you get elected to the United States Congress. It's a 2-year term. The first thing that happens after you get sworn in, your boy or girl takes you over and teaches you how to raise money. You spend all your time in a little phone booth calling people up trying to get money. Now, are you calling me? You're really going to call me, my elected representative? You're going to call Scott Ritter and ask for what? My $50 donation? No, because they don't care. They're going to call somebody else who's going to give them the big bucks. And then the door's going to knock. Is it me being invited to Washington, D.C. to talk to my representatives? Hell no. It's the corporations, it's the lobbyists, it's the people with the real money. That's because it costs a lot of money to run for office. So we've destroyed democracy. Until we have meaningful campaign finance reform, democracy is dead.
Yeah.
We should stop calling ourselves a democracy, because we don't function as a democracy. The people don't have a say whom they elect. People say, well, you get to go vote. Yeah, but who are we voting for? We didn't put them on the ballot. They did. Yeah. And so the way they work is pretty much whomever we are given choices for, it's good for them, not us, because they stack the deck both ways. The one time that this failed was when Donald Trump said, I'm not playing that game. I'm just going to go in and do it. And oh my God, he won the presidency. Now, and look what they've done to him since then.
Right.
They've attacked him. They've destroyed him. The establishment is coming down on him. I'm not saying this because I'm the greatest Donald Trump fan in the world. I'm not. Hey, Donald, January 6th, bad idea, man. Shame on you. And I will never change my position on that. Right. And I know right now the crowd's going, oh my God, he's anti. Screw you. I voted for Donald Trump.
Right. No,
I voted for Donald Trump because he represented change.
Right.
But you don't get to violate the Constitution.
Well, there were a few fatal errors there, not to go into a Trump, tangent here, but, these people are smart. They're really smart. And you telegraph this event and there was a lot of strong rhetoric around the event, but you should know better that these people are going to infiltrate. That's my opinion on it, is that I think the whole thing, it's partial psyop going on with all of that too. With
all I know about January 6th, the fundamental thing is Donald Trump was trying to put pressure on Congress, on Mike Pence, to do something in violation of the 12th Amendment of the Constitution.
Okay.
How that manifested itself and all that stuff, that's a different issue.
Fair enough.
There's no debate that Donald Trump sought extra constitutional pressure to have somebody operate in a manner that violated the 12th Amendment of the Constitution. Mike Pence had one job: stand up, convene the Congress, and count the votes. And then when the votes are counted, to certify the election. There's no other job description built in there. And Trump was trying to get something done differently than that. That's a violation of the 12th Amendment. I'm sorry, Donald Trump. And here's the other thing. The Constitution doesn't belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to Mike Pence. Right. It doesn't belong to Congress. It doesn't belong to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
It belongs to we, the people of the United States of America.
Right.
We are a constitutional republic.
Yeah.
Whatever powers the republic enjoys are only those granted to them by the Constitution that we, the people, put together.
Yeah.
But again, when I say 12th Amendment, how many people even know what it is?
Yeah.
We, the people, do we even know our Constitution? That's my fundamental problem, because we are ignorant of the Constitution. You can't defend that which you do not know.
Yeah.
And we don't know the Constitution. Therefore, we have punted on every constitutional issue. We've punted to whom? Congress, the people that the corporations bought, Supreme Court, that's a frickin' joke, excuse my language. But I mean, it's not about the law. We have 9 justices. Were they picked because of their legal acumen? No, they were picked because they have a political position that is supported by big money that makes it happen. We get a 5-4 decision. What does that mean? Because it becomes the supreme law of the land.
Yeah.
The 5-4 decision means that 4 of the supposed best legal minds in America disagreed.
Right.
Disagreed.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to now say, no, this is the law and everybody has to obey it. Nearly 50% of them said this shouldn't be the law.
Right.
What does that tell you about the Supreme Court? Maybe we should get a constitutional amendment that says, unless it's passed 7-2, it doesn't become law. That if the Supreme Court can't agree overwhelmingly that it should be law, then maybe it shouldn't be law.
Yeah.
Wow, imagine that. But we can't do that because this is about leveraging corporate power and money. And so 5-4 decisions become the supreme law of the land, even though with one change, suddenly they can decide it should never have been law. I mean, I get a little sick of my stomach every time I hear a Supreme Court justice say, well, that Supreme Court decision that was passed 8 years ago should never have been law. What the hell does that mean? Then why do we have a Supreme Court? If they're so incompetent that they're passing decisions that should never have been law, then maybe we shouldn't have them to begin with.
Yeah.
So this is a sick society. We are a sick society, and the sickness is not only with we the people who have stopped being functioning citizens, we are functioning consumers. That's it. Yeah. We live to consume. And the disrespect shown to us is obvious to all. What was the solution to all of our crises? Go out and shop.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm
You're
serious. I'm
going
not
back
making
to
this stuff up.
you're going
Go
back to
out
the
and
Bush.
shop.
That's the Bush era, right? Remember?
When Trump did it, everybody did it.
Yeah.
We got to show this economy only works if you go out and shop.
Yeah.
So please go out and shop and everything will be okay. As long as you prime the economic pump, then the corporations will be able to continue to bribe me so I can govern you. But I can't do it unless you shop, America. If you stop shopping, the corporations don't have the money to bribe me, and I might not be in office. And it's all about me being in office. It's not about your well-being. So we empower this. We, the people of the United States, stopped being citizens a long time ago, and we're nothing more than coddled consumers. And as long as the government keeps us wrapped up in this cocoon of comfort, and doesn't rock the boat too much, we're happy. We wake up in the morning, we unplug, we go to work, we plug in, we do whatever tasks we do, we unplug, we come home, we plug back in, and it's all based on consumerism. There's very few people that are actually doing the work of citizenship. I'm talking about getting out there and getting in the trenches and doing the good stuff for America. There's a lot of them. You're listening to me and you're saying, well, wait a minute. You're the exception, dude. You know you're the exception because you know you look around you and you're frustrated when you hold your little fundraising event for whatever worthy organization you do, and you get 50 people coming out and they all think like you, look like you, act like you, and they have the same bank account as you, which means pathetic. They write their check, which is well-meaning, but it's pathetic because you can't accomplish things with a few dollars. That's mielich. It's nothing. Yeah. It means nothing. You need millions of dollars. And right now, the way the system is built, the only people that can generate millions of dollars are corporations.
Yeah.
How can you even begin to raise money when we got the IRS now deciding that they're going to take a look at any transaction over $600? Yeah. What does that tell you? Yeah. That is the oppressive government coming down and controlling every aspect of your life. They're going to spend $80 billion to hire more IRS agents so that they can audit you, the average American, not the corporations, the people with the big loopholes. You only need one goddamn auditor. Excuse my language. I know that you keep that out. I apologize. Sorry. One darn auditor to audit any big corporation in America to get the billion-dollar loophole closed. And suddenly that's far more effective than hiring 80,000 to come after mom and pa who, are blinking their eyes and filling in the form. And, oh my God, they, what they're going after? Waitresses. Yeah. Waiters. Yeah. Let's not be sexist. The people that have a hard time making ends meet because, gosh, they did what the American dream said they should do. And they went to college. Couldn't afford it, but they went to college. They took out the loan. Yeah. Now they're paying the loan, but they can't afford to pay the loan. So they have to work 3 or 4 jobs. And one of those jobs is waitressing. And waitressing, the restaurateur, it's a secret deal. It's one of these deals that they have in America. They pay you dirt going in. The idea is you get your tips, and then it's always a wink and a nod. You don't declare all your tips. You pocket the tips. It's sort of the way you go. Is it legal? No. Is it necessary? Yes. Yeah. Is it a crime against America? No. But they're going to shut that down. Oh. Meanwhile, the corporation gets to go out there and get the $1 billion. Amazon will continue not to pay taxes. So, yay, America, you're doing good. Go after the waitresses and let Amazon get away with anything it wants to get away with. I'm not unhappy that Amazon exists. Right. They provide employment to a lot of people, and it would be hypocritical of me to say that I want them to go away because A, I buy a lot of books on Amazon, and B, I'm hoping to sell a lot of books on Amazon. Yeah. So, if you're a writer, you don't write for yourself. It's part of the way you make a living. You write a book, you want it to sell. Amazon is a service. Good, but pay your damn taxes. Yeah. Yeah. Pay your taxes and stop letting the IRS hire 80,000 agents to go after the waitresses. Yeah. That's not the threat to America. No. We're a sick nation. We don't function well. Yeah. And at the end of the day, how does it end up? With FBI agents kicking down the door of Mar-a-Lago, going after documents which were legally declassified. Yeah. People can sit there and say, well, he shouldn't have done. Not how the system works, people. I'm not happy about it, but when the president of the United States, who is the ultimate classifying authority, says that's unclassified, it's unclassified.
Right.
The rules don't exist for the president. Mm-hmm. The rules exist to manage declassification for the sheep. Mm-hmm. But the president gets to say that's unclassified. And guess what? It is unclassified. And just because it irritates the FBI, the National Archives, and all those other people, doesn't make it a felony crime.
Right.
And yet, here we are, once again, the same people that gave us Crossfire Hurricane. That's not me making it up. We know it.
Yeah.
The same office, the same people launched the raid against Mar-a-Lago. The same people that gave us the FISA warrants against Carter Page.
Yeah.
You know, the ones who lied, affidavits, lied before a judge who knew they were lying, but let them continue to lie, put a FISA warrant to violate the constitutional rights of an American citizen, not because he was important. They wanted to get to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
These same people, the people who allowed Christopher Steele to promulgate his crap.
Right.
They knew he was a liar. They knew his fabrication, but they fed it into the system anyways to get to Donald Trump. These are the same people who are launching the raid on Mar-a-Lago, and we're supposed to go, oh, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It's not okay, America.
Yeah.
It's not okay. I'm not saying that I agree with what Trump's doing. Look, I've already said the man is an irresponsible narcissist. Whether you have the legal authority to do something doesn't mean that you don't do it right.
Yeah.
These are documents that contain national security information. You should respect that, Mr. President. Mm-hmm. Just because it inconveniences you to follow the rules doesn't mean that you shouldn't follow the rules, because the rules aren't there for you, Mr. President. The rules are there to protect the information contained in the documents.
Right.
But Donald Trump went, no, I'm going to do it my way. And the law says he gets to do it.
Yeah.
So whether you disagree with that or not, it's not illegal, and you darn sure don't send FBI agents to kick down the door of a former president. If you want a civil war in America, keep doing what you're doing, FBI.
Yeah.
The last thing I will ever do is espouse violence against the FBI. I'm not doing that now. I disagree vehemently with how they behave. I disagree with everything they stand for. They're not a good organization.
Right.
They're not. Right. If we ever gained access to the totality of their files, we would see the crimes they perpetrate against Americans on a daily basis. They are a political assassination team, not physical assassination, but reputation assassin. These aren't good people. They are not good people. They don't deserve to die. No one should be targeting them physically, but we should be targeting them politically. Yeah. We should be talking about the sources of funding. We should be talking about why they exist.
There you go. Yeah.
Why do they exist? Because they're not a legitimate law enforcement agency. Nope. Oh, yeah, they got a badge, they got a gun, they get around. But they are a political police. Mm-hmm. They are the American version of the Gestapo. They unleash the FBI on you when they disagree with you. How do I know? They've been unleashed on me. They've been trying to shut me up since 1991.
Yeah.
In 1991, I carried out the horrific crime of marrying my wife.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, the FBI has targeted me for destruction. They have done their best, their level best to destroy me. And they've targeted other people as well. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail, sometimes they partially succeed. My life has not been easy. My family's life has not been easy. We're still here because I don't play their game. I don't care about them. I think they suck. Hey, FBI, you suck. I have rights. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that the Constitution will ultimately prevail when we bring it up. I could be wrong. I could be walking down a plank to go off the ship into shark-infested waters to be eaten. That's okay, because I'll jump into that water knowing that at the end of the day, I was doing the right thing. Yeah. I was standing up for the Constitution. You know who doesn't stand up for the Constitution? The FBI.
Yeah.
It doesn't stand up for the Constitution. They take an oath to uphold and defend a document that they violate on a daily basis. The Constitution is an impediment to their work. The Constitution is something to be gone around, not embraced. The FBI sucks. It needs to go away. I wish it would go away today. It's not going to. Why? Because the American people don't know enough about the Constitution to be offended by what the FBI does against them on a daily basis.
Right. Right. All really, really great points. I mean, another thing I would add to the idea about the corporations, right, is now you've got the corporations doing the bidding of the federal government. I mean, I'm around a lot of people that are like, "Hey, man, it's a private company, bro," and I'm like, "Yeah, it ain't so private when they're on the take and they're doing the bidding of the government, and everybody's." Kind of intertwined. We've seen all these government agencies out there that infiltrate. I mean, big pharma would be a great example of all of this. And one guy goes off to work for Pfizer, and then he's working at the FDA, and it's like there's like I don't know, incest going on is a good word. I think I don't even know, but this whole idea that corporations are like independent. Now, not all of them, some of them, but when they start to tell states and individuals how to conduct their own personal lives, and this is what we endorse, and you don't endorse this, and you're thinking, but you're a company, you're not a government, But it's becoming like some of these companies, Scott, these corporations are bigger than governments. They're bigger than some small countries. The number of people that work for the corporation and their outreach is global or international. So they start behaving that way. And then they collude, is a popular word these days. They collude with whatever government is going to help them continue to grow their profit margin. But that's a whole other topic, and maybe it would be a good conversation.
Go into every corporation in America and go to their corporate security office.
Yeah.
And pull the resumes and bios of the people that staff them.
Right.
Former senior FBI agents, former senior CIA agents, former Department of Homeland Security agents. It's a revolving door.
Yeah.
From it's well known what happens in the military. These generals go up, they get involved in weapons procurement, etc. They become cozy with military industrial complex, and then when they retire, revolving door. They're on the boards. They're out there doing the same thing. Yeah. So that relationship, everybody goes, "Oh my God, that's horrible. Shouldn't happen." You're right, it shouldn't. Well, you know what else shouldn't happen? Shouldn't be allowed to serve in the FBI, doing investigating white collar crimes and all this kind of stuff, doing computer security, information security, becoming buddy with these corporations, and then retiring, go work for the corporation. No, because what happens? Your entire time as an FBI agent becomes nothing more than an audition for the big job.
Yeah.
Because you ain't going anywhere on FBI salary. Been there, done that, not FBI salary, but I've done the equivalent.
Yeah.
The thing about working for the government is if you put in your 20, 30 years and you retire, you will have a comfortable middle class existence.
Yeah.
Middle class nowadays, though, means that you're going to be struggling the whole time. You're going to be struggling to make payments. You can't afford to send your kids to the great colleges. You can't afford to have the lifestyle. Because, when you're in the government, you get a little spoiled sometimes because you get to travel a lot. You get to go to Europe. You get to do this. You get to, meet people and all this stuff. But now you're out and you're on your pathetic little retirement salary. You can't do anything. You're no longer privileged enough to go to Europe and all this stuff. You're stuck being mom, pa. Your big vacation is going to be loading the kids in the car, going down to the beach, along with all the other proletariat who are sitting on the beach, getting sunburned and fat and greasy. And then you get to come home and you get to worry about how you're going to pay your bills and all that. And if you're lucky, your kids get to go to community college, maybe state university. That's it. If you want something better, then you got to play the game. Right. You got to retire and you got to go into the corporations where suddenly you're making the money that allows you to have the vacation home in the Hamptons, to have the big farm outside of Washington, D.C., to have the ability to send your kids to Harvard, Yale, Cornell, Columbia, Stanford, all the big schools, and not worry about, bone crushing student debt.
Yeah.
That's the game that's played, and every FBI agent plays it. They all play. You don't join the FBI because you want to be in law enforcement, because you're not a law enforcement officer, buddy. You're a political hit job. You're a Gestapo, and you know it. You may not know it the first time you went to Quantico and you ran around. You sure learned it on your first assignment when you said, "What are we doing? Why are we doing it this way? I thought we were trained this, but we're doing it this way." No, this is the reality of your job. You're not here to protect people. You're here to oppress the people. Oh, now the honorable person at that point in time resigns, walks away. But the average person says, "Well, I committed to this. I put this much into it.
Yeah.
So how does this work in the end?" Well, what you need to do is work your way up the chain so you get one of these cushy special agent in charge jobs aligned with either intelligence, corporate security, IT. Then when you're finished, you rotate in. You get the big corporate job. You get to live the life. You got the golden ring. That's what they do. That's what the CIA does. That's what everybody does. They're not here to serve America. They're not. And the generals don't. You learn this as a colonel. You learn this as a colonel because you realize that I had to sell my soul to become a colonel. I didn't get to go from lieutenant colonel to colonel by being a good Marine. I got to do that because I became political. And now you become colonel and you need that star. And to get that star, don't do it by charging beaches. Some lucky few do. They get the opportunity to excel in combat and they get rewarded with the star. But most of them have to go out and get involved in selling, buying equipment, procurement, etc., making some sort of politicized decision that makes Congress happy, keeps the people that make money off of defense happy. You get your star. Now you got the 1 star, you need the 2 star, then you need the 3 star. And every star you get, you sell a little bit more of your soul. So that by the time you get 4 stars, you are full-fledged, sold out to everybody. They all, bring them all on. Any 4-star general, come on, baby, come to daddy. Let's have a debate. Let's discuss your career. Let's discuss your career decisions. Let's discuss your retirement options. Let's discuss your portfolio, your stock portfolio. Let's discuss every aspect of your life because you're not a 4-star general because you were the best Marine ever. Al Gray may have been the last guy to have that title. Al Gray was a warrior's warrior. He didn't play the game. And when he retired, you know what he didn't do? Right. Join boards.
Yeah.
He retired and he went off to a nice, quiet existence, helping Marines be Marines, etc. But he didn't play the game. He's not Lloyd Austin.
Yeah.
Went straight off to Raytheon or wherever he went off to. And I can let's just pick the name of all the 4-star generals. And when they retire, let's see where they go. Mm-hmm. How many go into a quiet retirement? Those that do, you can say they got there, I believe, with some honor and integrity. Yeah. But if you flip around and become a member of various boards and you get involved in the defense industry, you sold your soul a long time ago. Well, so are the FBI agents. They all suck. Look at James Comey. Look at the rotation he had between the FBI and then you go to a law firm because this is the biggest scam in the FBI.
Right.
If you have your law degree and you join the FBI, at some point in time, you rotate out and you go to a law firm, and where you basically make a lot of money doing nothing more than using your name on the corporate law board. And then at some point in time, they rotate you back into government because now you got the money. Now you got the money where you can have the home, host the parties, etc. Then you rotate out again, bigger post in a law firm, back into the government. You should not be allowed to do this.
No.
You should not be allowed to do this. Once, if you're going to join the military, stay in the military. If you're going to join the FBI, stay in the FBI. But the concept of when you get up to mid-level, suddenly being able to rotate out, make money, and come back is absurd in the extreme. The FBI is not about making money. You should not have to go out to a law firm in order to make money to be a senior FBI official. But that's the way it's done because money runs everything. Integrity runs nothing. There's my rant.
Nice. Good rant. All right, let's pivot back to Ukraine because one of the other issues.
Calm me down.
Yeah, that'll calm me down, right? I mean, the first Ukraine rant was pretty huge. But there's this nuclear power plant, Scott, where Russia has taken over the plant. They did a while ago, I believe, and I'm not sure if former Ukrainian citizens are still running the plant, pressing the buttons, making the plant operate, or if the Russians brought their own people in to run the facility. But this place has been the subject of a lot of concern the last week or so because apparently it's being targeted by maybe the same folks that carried out the assassination, where they're going to fire weapons at this plant and possibly damage it. I've even heard people say that the nuclear plant itself may end up like Chernobyl, and people, the smart people at least, are freaking out like this this is a real problem. And what is going on? Do you know what's going on at this facility? And is there a real danger, or is this just, some people out there trying to grab some headlines and make people freak out? Because I'm a little freaked out. I'm just going to be honest, because I think the West is just overplaying their hand with, yeah, we can stand up to Russia, we can stand up to China, we can stand up to everybody. Nothing's going to go wrong. It's going to be great. And on one of our conversations toward the end, you painted a real stark, grave picture about us, trying to take on China and what would happen, and sort of the resulting nuclear offensive that would pretty much just end humanity at that point. Just we'd be all done. So it wouldn't matter about knowing the Constitution, because at that point you'd be dead, you'd be vaporized. So I don't know what any of that would do. So my question to you is, what's going on with this power plant? It's got a really strange name that I can't pronounce. So if you can pronounce it, that's great. If not, no harm, no foul. But I spoke with somebody the other day on this, and they were a little concerned about it. So what's your take on that?
Well, I can't guarantee that I'm not butchering the name as well, but I think the pronunciation is the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant.
All right.
6 reactors produced during the Soviet time, built to, I believe, a better standard, safety standard than the Chernobyl reactor.
Well, that's incredible.
Built to, I think it's a different design, so it doesn't have the fatal, graphite tipped, fuel rod problem that caused the explosion for Chernobyl, but it's still a nuclear power plant.
Right.
It's built to withstand, I believe, an airplane flying into it. I think it's built to withstand a truck driving into it. And what I'm trying to say is it's built to withstand artillery shells.
Okay.
You need a very big artillery shell, maybe a thermobaric munition, to threaten the structure, the physical structure of these reactors. But the thing about reactors is the big risk there is power. If you cut off power to the reactor, then things can go bad. Safety systems shut down, reactors start to spin out of control, and next thing you know, you got a Chernobyl type incident, or more likely Fukushima, or a 3 Mile Island type incident. Chernobyl was an explosion that happened because of a design thing. Here we're talking about a different kind of accident. The end result, it's still very much a bad thing to happen. You don't want it to have happen. So power supplies. Now, if you take out the regular power lines that come in, there's a backup power generator, diesel, that should allow you enough time to safely bring the reactor down and shut it down. But if you blow up the diesel, or you complicate the scenario and they run out, you don't have enough diesel. If people are siphoning the diesel off because they need fuel, then you have a problem. The safety things. If all the safety systems aren't functioning, then you may not know that there's a problem when there is a problem, and you're not going to deal with the mitigating steps necessary. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong if somebody's bombarding you with artillery shells that cut power. Geez, they've done that. Threaten the safety systems. They've done that. Threaten the backup power. They've done that. Yeah. So all the things that you don't want to have happen are happening now. Are they happening as the Ukrainians say? Is this a case of the Russians committing genocide against Russians? You know what I mean? I mean, because the Russians on March 3rd took the plant. Why did the Russians occupy this plant? Maybe they had intelligence that the Ukrainians were seeking to use the spent fuel rods, and that's the other part of the plan, is you have these spent fuel rods that are in storage shelters. They need to be cooled, because when you pull a fuel rod out of a nuclear reactor, even though it's not optimally producing fuel. That's why you're pulling out. But it's still very hot. It's still very radioactive.
Yeah.
And so it has to go into cooling ponds for a certain amount of time. So you don't want these things to be disruptive. An artillery shell hitting a cooling pond could create, an incident the equivalent of a dirty bomb. And what is a dirty bomb? A dirty bomb is when you take contaminated material, radioactive material, and you mix, you get it involved with a high explosive, an event that spreads it. It's not a nuclear explosion. Fission did not occur. What occurred though is what happens after a nuclear explosion. Radiation is spread, and you now have radioactive material around that is hazardous to human life. So Zaporizhia has great risk of enabling somebody who had nefarious intent to produce dirty bombs. So the Russian concern was that they had intelligence that the Ukrainians may take spent fuel rods from Zaporizhia and use them to create dirty bombs that would be exploded to impede the Russian advance, maybe used as terrorist weapons inside Russia. So they wanted to secure this. So they did on March 3rd. They secured the site. They were also concerned that the Ukrainians would seek to extract plutonium from these spent fuel rods. There's a lot of plutonium in these spent fuel rods, enough to produce several nuclear weapons. So you want to secure that too. Now, by securing it, what does that mean? Physical security. That means that you need somebody to be in control of the site, and the Russian military took on that responsibility. There's about 500 guys, about a battalion's worth of security forces who provide physical security over the site to ensure that the fuel rods aren't tampered with. Nobody steals a fuel rod to use as a dirty bomb, or that fuel rods aren't missing, where the Ukrainians could extract the plutonium to create a real nuclear weapon. So there's physical security there. Now, who's operating the site? The site is operated by Ukrainian nuclear reactor specialists. They live in a town. I mean, the way these things work is, this is a major corporation that owns and operates these reactors, and they provide energy. I think up to 25% of Ukraine's energy is provided by the Zaporizhia plant. And the people that do this live in a city nearby, and that city is a factory town. Everything about that city deals with the economic activity of this town. Right. There's about 11,000 people, I think, involved in this. They still live there.
Yeah.
The Russians have encouraged them to come to work. And again, the encouragement may be strong because you got to keep the reactor going, guys. You're going to work. I'm not going to say they're held hostage. They're not. They could leave if they wanted to, but the Russians have said, we want you to continue working, providing plan. Now, because of the war and everything, I believe that 4 of the reactors have been powered down. They're not operating. Reactors operating because of the artillery strikes. They are operating around 50% capacity. The work of these experts is being overseen by Russian atomic energy experts. The Soviet Union built the reactors, which means Russia built the reactors. Yeah. And so the Russian experts coming in, it's not like you're bringing me in.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, go monitor this thing. They're bringing in true experts, people who have safety foremost in mind. They're monitoring the work to make sure, because these Ukrainian workers now have been divorced from their parent organization in Kiev, the Ukrainian Nuclear Power Authority, whatever you want to call them, the Ministry of Nuclear Energy. There's a divorce there. They're not getting that support. Things need to happen. Spare parts need to be made available. Salaries need to be paid and all this. So that's being done by the Russians. And so the Russians brought in their atomic authority to oversee this plant, to keep it functioning, to make sure it's functioning safely, and to look out for the welfare and the well-being of the Ukrainian workers who are working there. Some people have said this is proof that Russia is trying to take over the facility and divert its energy to Russia.
Yeah.
There's no evidence that this is taking place so far. I'm not saying that it won't take place. I'm not saying that there's not a plan in place, but there's no evidence that this is taking place. the power that's produced continues to go to Ukraine. It's not that much power anymore. As I said, it's been reduced significantly. And if the Ukrainians keep cutting off the power lines to it, there won't be any power transmission whatsoever.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, though, Russia will take political control of the territory that encompasses the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Mm-hmm. And depending on what settlement is reached with Ukraine, the power that's produced by this plant may be diverted to provide power for Novaya Russia, the new Russia that's going to be created. Legally, I don't know how that works. The Russians are very legalistic in their approach, and I believe whatever peace agreement emerges between Russia and Ukraine will probably include a discussion of who owns this power, who has access to this power. Yes, possession is 9/10 of the law unless you stole it. And so I think the Russians may be in a position where they say Ukraine can buy energy from this at a discounted rate. I don't know. I can't predict the future, but I'm just saying that we don't know what the future is going to hold. But whatever is going to happen with this power plant does not justify the shelling of the plant, which is what's happening right now. The Ukrainians are bombarding this plant. And it doesn't justify the United States lying about what's going on at the plant. There's 500 soldiers there. They have trucks. Mm-hmm. Those trucks are parked in places. The soldiers have they have weaponry. That weaponry requires an armory, maybe requires some ammunition, which will likewise be stored in the vicinity of this plant. This is not, however, the equivalent of bringing an armor battalion or an artillery battalion, digging in artillery pieces next to nuclear power plants so they can be fired off, hiding behind a nuclear shield. That's a term used by Anthony Blinken. A nuclear shield. He's accused the Russians of using the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant as a nuclear shield behind which the Russian military can operate with impunity, because the good Ukrainian people would never fire an artillery shell against them because they know what the ramifications are. You're a liar, Anthony Blinken.
Yeah.
You know it's a lie. The statement you made on August 1st about what's going on in Zaporizhia is a lie. A lie. If you have evidence that Russia is using the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant as a nuclear shield, produce it. You've done it in the past. My God, Cuban Missile Crisis. The Russians have missiles in Cuba. Russia, no, we don't. Yes, you do. Here's the photographs. We prove it. See, missiles. Right. Proof, Russia. I guess we do have missiles in Cuba. In the 1980s, he shot down a Korean airliner, killing 62 Americans, including one congressman. No, we didn't. We had nothing to do with that. Oh, here's the audio tape, the interception and communication of your fighter pilot as he comes in, identifies it as a civilian liner, and shoots it down. Oh, yeah, I guess we did do that. Okay, boom. Right. You're using Zaporizhia nuclear power plant as a nuclear shield. This is a big deal. Mm-hmm. This is a Chernobyl type event we're talking about. It's not a minor deal. Big deal. If the Russians are doing this, show me the photograph. Right. You can't, because it doesn't exist, because you're making it up. But why are you making it up? And here's the issue. They're making it up because they're providing justification for the Ukrainians to shell the plant. Now, initially, Ukraine went, no, we didn't do it. The Russians shelled themselves. As if the Russians wake up drink their 400 grams of vodka and say, shell ourselves, comrades, shell ourselves. Because, of course, the Russians are cartoon characters. Boris, Natasha, the drunk Russian, Insane, the mad Russian, might as well just shell ourselves. Oh, that's not how they operate. They were shelled by Ukrainians to create a sense of impending doom. Doom. Now, the Ukrainians will justify this, and Zelensky has come out and said, yeah, we're shelling the thing. So Blinken, shut up. Your lie didn't work. The Ukrainian government finally admitted they're doing it. Why? Because the Russians are using it for military purposes. We have to respond, they say. But in order to prevent this, the solution now is that the international community must intervene. Must intervene, not with just inspectors to come in and verify the safety of the plant. That would be nice, but Ukraine won't allow that to happen. Ukraine won't allow that to happen until the plant is brought under the control of international peacekeepers. Whoa, there we go. The international community is now going to bring in peacekeepers. That means military people who are going to take territory away from the Russians. That's a precedent that's being set. They want peacekeepers to come in, take control of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant so that it can be operated responsibly under the control of the Banderist ideological Nazis. Forget that. And then the inspectors can come in. Well, Russia's not playing that game. Russia says, no, we operate this plant safely operated. You're not going to bring in international peacekeepers. We want inspectors to come in. We invite them in, but this needs to stop. The Ukrainian government must stop. Now, they're shelling it. What are they shelling it with? We've seen a variety of weapons used, but one of the weapons that's alleged to have been used is the HIMARS system. That is the high mobility artillery rocket system provided by the United States to Ukraine. Yeah. Key aspect of the HIMARS is that it is treated as a strategic asset, meaning that Ukrainians just don't receive it and use it any way they want to. They receive it, and then its operations are coordinated closely with the United States, who uses intelligence information to pick every single target that HIMARS strikes. This means that not only did we pick the prison that was struck, killing 50 some odd or more maybe prisoners, Azov prisoners, about to go on trial, and through that trial process tell the truth about the links between the Ukrainian government, the crimes they perpetrated against the Russian people of Mariupol. No, they had to be silenced. They were silenced with HIMARS. The U.S. picked that target. We facilitated that target. We murdered those prisoners. We're war criminals. Yay! God bless America. But then now we're the ones picking the targets for HIMARS to strike Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. We are nuclear terrorists, literally nuclear terrorists. Anthony Blinken, anytime you want to debate me, Jake Sullivan, you two, hey, Miley, bring it on. Lloyd Austin, let's have this discussion. Congress should be having this discussion, should be calling hearings, bringing people in and saying, what the hell is going on in Zaporizhia, and why is America not shutting this down? It's not about stopping Russia. It's about stopping Ukraine. Ukraine is our client state, using our weapons, targeting those weapons with the intelligence we provided and we greenlit. We're the ones behind the striking of Zaporizhia because this is not about the Ukrainian government defending Ukrainian soil. This is about the United States desperate. Remember the captain of the sinking ship?
Yep.
What does a captain do when his ship is sailing smoothly? He functions responsibly. Right. He is in control. When your ship is going down, you're running around trying to do anything you can to save the ship. This is the equivalent of the anything you can kind of moment. To create a sense of impending doom of sufficient level that justifies the insertion of an international peacekeeping force to do in Ukraine what the Ukrainian military can't do, push the Russians back. Yeah. Well, Russia's not playing that game. They are doing their best to expose the truth about what's going on. They're inviting international inspectors in, and I believe that the international inspectors show up. They will show two things. One, that the Russians have been extraordinarily responsible in the operation of the Zaporizhia plant. Mm-hmm. That at no time has there been any safety problems related to how Russia operates the plant at all. That the only safety problems come when the Ukrainians fire artillery shells into the plant. This is the problem. But the issue then is if the inspectors say that, then how does the United Nations, how does the esteemed Secretary General, who has decided to involve himself in this process, how does he respond to that? Well, he can't. Therefore, you don't let the inspectors in. That's why Ukraine's blocking them. They don't want the truth to be told. How is this going to be resolved? Unfortunately, the only way to resolve it is through the Russians kicking the living crap out of Ukraine even more. Yeah. Thank you, America. Once again, you've created the conditions for the Ukrainian people to suffer because the Russian solution now is to drive the Ukrainians so far back from Zaporizhia that no Ukrainian weapon system can strike Zaporizhia. Yeah. That means more territorial acquisition. That means more dead Ukrainian civilians. That means more dead Ukrainian soldiers. That means more dead Russian soldiers. You've just escalated this conflict. It's not going to work out the way the West wants. This will work out solely to Russia's advantage. I believe the Russians are in control of this situation. They will do everything necessary to ensure that a Chernobyl type event doesn't transpire at the plant. This probably means that they're going to have to start shutting it down even more to reduce the vulnerability, which means less electricity is being produced for the people of Ukraine. Yeah. Let's think about that. The Ukrainian government doesn't care about the people of Ukraine. No. We know that now. They don't care because A, they're not allowing this plant to operate at full capacity so the power generated could be shared with the people of Ukraine. They're shutting that down. And B, they're creating the potential of a Chernobyl type disaster that will destroy wide swaths of territory, kill tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people, and affect the lives detrimentally of millions of others. Yay, Ukraine. Yay, Slava Ukraina. Such great people. And we're the ones backing them up. Russia knows this. The Russians are coming in clear-eyed. They know the nature of the threat. They know the reality of Kiev. They know the complicity of the United States. They have factored all of this into whatever solution they have. And I think you're going to see the Russian solution coming down on Ukraine like a ton of bricks. It's going to hurt. It's going to be big, but it has to happen. Because if you don't do this, if Russia doesn't push them back, there could be a Chernobyl type event. Probably not. I give the likelihood of that occurring to be very slim. But you know what? I don't like any percentage.
Right.
I'd like that percentage to be about as close to zero as possible. And yet we're allowing single digit percentage factors to come into play. And the one thing I've learned about life is if you bet against the minority odd, it's going to bite you because eventually they're going to, it's going to happen. In this case, when it happens, it's going to be it would be a huge disaster for the world. So, Russia, they're not perfect. They make lots of mistakes, but their ship has not hit an iceberg. Their captain's still in charge, and their crew is doing things necessary to keep the ship from going from point A to point B. And point B is the accomplishment of every objective set out for the special military operation when it was initiated on February 24th.
Yeah. Wow. All right, Scott. Well, we've used up an hour already, and I kind of thought about 1 hour would be pretty sufficient. I think we covered the stuff I wanted to cover. Obviously, you're always welcome to come back if you want to, or if I decide to call you and say, hey, we've got this issue. I mean, it's been happening, every couple of days. There's a new issue that I think you're going to have some valuable insights to talk about. So I really appreciate you coming on. And again, feel free to plug your book I did at the beginning, but in case some folks may have done a little fast forwarding from the beginning, maybe they missed the plug. Your book is out there. It's you mentioned Amazon's going to be selling your book, I believe, starting September 1st. Is that correct?
Amazon, yeah, I think people are already buying it on the book. On it, I don't know, but Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, it'll be available to the traditional avenues for selling books September 1st. If you want it now, you can get it from the Clarity. Clarity Press is the publisher. Go to the Clarity Press website and you can buy the book there. We just had a conversation, sometimes heated on my part. I apologize, but that pretty much painted a very stark picture of where we are.
Yeah.
Hopefully, at some point in time, this conflict in Ukraine is going to end.
Yeah.
And when it does, Russia and the United States are going to have to find a way to work together to create a diplomatic off-ramp.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of people right now saying, well, I just don't envision how they can do it. The world, it's so bad. When we have a proxy war where we're killing Russians, we have sanctions against Russia, they're arresting Brittany Griner, and even Dennis Rodman won't be able to save her.
Right. Dennis Rodman. Oh, no.
The point is, though, pretty bad.
Yeah.
It sucked.
Mm-hmm.
In 1985, we had a situation that was worse than this. Okay, we were funding, the CIA was funding the Mujahideen to kill Russians in Afghanistan. That's a proxy war.
Right.
We were carrying out sanctioning of Russian energy, but more than that, the CIA was using the sanctions to infiltrate corrupted parts that resulted in a major explosion on a Russian pipeline inside Russia. So active sabotage. This wasn't about arresting Brittany Griner. In 1985, they shot and killed Major Arthur Nicholson in Ludwigshafen, a Soviet tank facility in East Germany. People were dying. We almost had nuclear war, not one, not two, but 3 times in the 1980s. And we had an INF missile crisis where both sides were deploying advanced nuclear armed missiles that were horrifically destabilizing. And one mistake, that fourth almost nuclear conflict, could be the one that did it all.
Yeah.
Things sucked in the 80s. They really did.
Yeah.
We called the Soviet Union the evil empire. They called us enemy number one.
Right.
If you had asked people, how can you have an off ramp off of this? People would have said, there's no chance, no chance in hell. But we did it.
Yeah.
That's what this book is about. This book is a history of the implementation of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, which was signed by Reagan and Gorbachev in December 1987. It entered into force in July of 1988. And this book covers the first years of this treaty, how we accomplished America, how we literally saved the world from itself, how we got two enemies together to work in harmony to achieve disarmament that created the potential, unfulfilled potential, but the potential at least for nations living in friendship. Because as Ronald Reagan himself said to a group of Soviet students in June of 1988, they said, do you still view us as the evil empire? And he said, no, I view you as friends.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan could start viewing Soviets, whom he reviled as evil, as friends. If we could do it once, we could do it again. George Santayana, American philosopher, once said, those who fail to learn the lessons of history are condemned to repeat its mistakes. The only problem with that is that implies that every lesson is a negative lesson, that it was a failure, that you're condemned to repeat the failures. Sometimes history actually provides a success, a template of success. And that's what this book is. It's a template of success. So I'll modify it. Those who fail to learn the successes of history are condemned not to be able to repeat them. And that's the path we're headed on today. I put this book out there as a good starting point. It's a great piece of history about a very critical time that nobody knows about. No book like this has ever been written in any language. This is truly the first time the world is going to be introduced to what's happening here. I tried to make it entertaining because, humans are humans. And when you throw military people into tough situations, humor comes out of it. And so it's about life. It's about human beings. It's about Americans learning to be friends with Russians and Russians learning to be friends with Americans. That's one of the most important lessons. And then it's about how countries can overcome their own bureaucratic opposition that exists both in the Soviet Union and the United States about arms control, how this was overcome by the people on the ground, people doing the job, Russians and Americans and alike. And lastly, it's about this taking place in a unique time in history. It's disarmament, the time of perestroika. So if we didn't have enough problems already trying to implement this treaty, throw in trying to do it as the Soviet Union is convulsing through the radical changes of perestroika. Right. So I like the book. I've written 10 books to date. This is my favorite, my all-time, hands down favorite, because not only it's almost autobiographical, I have to use me as the venue to tell the story. So there's a lot of me in this book, but it's also one of the most transformative times in my life. I went from being a Marine who was trained to kill Russians to being an arms controller who learned to live and operate as friends with Russians. And even though I don't discuss it in the book, it's where I met my wife. We didn't fall in love there. You weren't allowed to fall in love there, but I met her, and that friendship we talk about, where I was able to view the Soviet people as human beings, allowed me to view her as a human being, so that later on, when the opportunity came, we were able to, fall in love, get married, and have 31 years of marriage this month. So awesome. Success. So it's a book that just means a whole lot to me. And that's why I wrote it. And I would encourage people to read it.
All right. And that was you can't beat, any other kind of marketing than the author himself, sharing a lot of insights and details and a lot of enthusiasm. Scott, again, we really appreciate you coming on. You are certainly my most popular guest that I have on. The videos go far and wide. In fact, some of this stuff has even been copied and sent different places. I get these notifications that, there are copyright violations coming in all over the place. And I just let it go, because I want people to see these videos, and there might be somebody who's a little more charismatic than I am, who's sharing the information with folks. I don't really care as long as people get the truth. And again, I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully again we'll have another conversation in the future.
Oh, thanks for having me.